Hello, my name is LaRonda Howard, and I welcome you to Unscripted, the talk series, where we have real, candid conversations.
Black man dirt, black man waste. That's what they think about black man today. Black man jogging in fears for his life. Black man in his own apartment didn't have a fair fight. Black man, oh black man, the injustices stare at us right in the face. Black man down without any ammunition and without any rounds, defenseless, and still he'll never get a fair case. The blood of the black man stained in the street. Black man driving the speed limit and still gets pulled over by police. Oh, black man, young black man with a hoodie on and Skittles in his hand. Not a threat to a single soul, yet he was robbed of the opportunity to ever see his mother and father again. Oh, black man. Black man incriminated by a system that was against him before birth. Black man has to fall to his knees and pray for protection just to go to work. Oh, black man gets arrested just for sitting in a coffee shop. Black man finds himself 6 feet below earth after getting a degree and keeping his record clean. Oh, but for you, black man, that's still not enough. Oh, black man, I can hear the blood of the black man crying from his grave, bound by the chains of injustice, whipped by the lashes of discrimination that try to keep him enslaved. Oh, black man, it was your blackness that got you killed. Your heart was pure, your hands were clean, you had no evil intent, yet your integrity was abused and disfigured just like Emmett Till. Oh, black man, I hear the voice of the black man as he struggled to hold on to his very last breath, inhaling the confusion of what was happening to him, hoping for someone to come to his rescue just so he can make it home to put his children to bed. Oh, black man, we will hold on to your voice and we will remember your cry, because the only thing you were guilty of was your desire to stay alive. Oh, black man, the only crime you committed was your desire to stay alive.
So now I just want to officially welcome you. Thank you so much again for joining us. We're really grateful for it. I'm very grateful for each and every speaker that had agreed to be a part of this, as well as all of our attendees. Now I'm going to ask Alvin W. King to pray, and then we'll pick up with the agenda.
All right, let us go to God in prayer. Father in heaven, we thank you for this day, Lord. We just thank you for your grace and mercy and all that you have bestowed upon us. Holy Spirit, you are welcomed in this place, and we just thank you for your anointing. Anoint everyone that is participating in this unscripted talk, and we ask that you just anoint the speakers and anoint the audience, God, and open our hearts and our minds to receive your word, receive your instructions as you speak through us regarding what's to be said here tonight. Father in heaven, we also just thank you for your mercy. We thank you for the grace that you've provided us, Lord, and just thank you for blessing us to be a vessel. And we thank you for this platform that we are allowed to stand on to hear from women and hear from men about what's in our hearts and our minds, Lord. And then we pray that, God, that it will be received by numerous people, numerous individuals, and maybe impact their lives as well in a positive way. We thank you for your grace and mercy again, Lord, and we trust that your will shall be done through this platform. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. So now I'm going to ask each and every speaker that's part of the panel discussion to briefly share a little bit about themselves, and we'll just go from one person to the next. I'll start. Let me start because I don't want to forget. So my name is LaRonda Howard. I am a certified professional life coach. I am the owner of Her Story Productions, as well as Hope Empowerment Resources. And I provide life coaching services, training for others. I host events. I'm an event planner. There's a whole host of things, but I enjoy what I do. And I definitely look forward to what comes tonight as far as the talk that we're going to have. So I'm going to pass it on. Whoever wants to go next.
I'll go next. My name is Alvin W. King, and I am the founder and executive director of Fishers of Men International Incorporated. It's a nonprofit organization that fosters mentoring, coaching, and personal development to young boys and men from all walks of life. In addition, I'm also a certified professional life coach and a life coach trainer and a financial coach. I'm a native of Houston, Texas, and I currently reside in Jacksonville, Florida. And this event tonight means a lot to me, and the purpose for me participating in it is just to share with the women in the world where I stand as a man and how they impact my life, and the appreciation that I have for them, and how I can, as a man, be a better leader, be a better anchor in our families and in our communities.
My name is Dimitri Lynch, and I am a graphic artist and multimedia specialist. Been in Jacksonville for about 15 years or so. This is my second tour here. Come from a military background with my dad serving in the Navy. And I am honored to be a part of this panel, just to have an opportunity to share certain insights about manhood, and to help encourage other men out there, and to inspire them to rise up and fulfill their role that God has ordained for them to fulfill. So very honored to be here.
Hello there, I'm Sandra D. Johnson, and I am a family coach, founder of the Madicel Group. And Madicel stands for making a difference in someone else's life. And I provide family coaching and non-clinical counseling to individuals and families. I specialize right now with working with families from from our Duval County Teen Court. So youth that are in crisis. I started a ladies group called Female Knights of the Round Table. And in that ladies group, the heart of it is to support men, to make sure that as women, holding each other accountable, one of the key things we want to hold each other accountable on is how we honor men, how we treat them, and making sure that they are lifted up and encouraged. And that's one of the things I like to do in helping my community.
All right, who's next?
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Theo Graham. I'm the Director of Missions for Europe at Jacksonville. We're a one-year professional training program where we work with youth 18 to 24 years of age. We mentor them, we coach them, do professional training, and prepare them for a career, after internship. So, just happy to be here. I'm also an adjunct professor of mathematics at Florida State College of Jacksonville. So I've been teaching in and out of the classrooms for about 12 years now. Been in this Jacksonville community for 15 years. So it's an honor to be here tonight. Why am I here? Because there are so many men that haven't been led, they haven't been trained. They don't understand what manhood really is. So it's very good to be able to impart the importance and the significance of us as priests of the home and leaders to be able to lead and guide our families, and not only guide the families, but create legacy for our young people and for the next generation. So I'm just honored to be here tonight and look forward to this discussion.
Hello, everyone. I am the wife of Theo Graham. I'm CJ Graham. I do have a background in education myself, working for a private college, both in the not-for-profit and for-profit sector. I am an author, a relationship coach. I'm currently working on a certification in mental health coaching, Sandra and myself. I am an entrepreneur, speaker, like LaRonda said, just a host of different things. So I'll just keep it short and right there, quick to the point. I am excited to be here, and this is passionate to me because I am married to a man, and I'm married to a Black man, and being his partner as well as his support system is very important, that more of us women, especially married women, rally around our men and undergird our husbands and our brothers in support, and letting them know that regardless of what the world says about them, that they are created in God's image and they have a purpose, and we need them in the earth to cover us as women and to be the leaders and the identifiers of the spirit you know, that resides in our younger generations, even our children as well. So again, I'm excited to be here and glad to get the discussion going.
All right.
Hi, my name is Benjamin Gonzalez Jr., and I'm excited to be part of the panel as well. Not a native of Jacksonville, joined the military that brought me over to Jacksonville in '95. So I am a U.S. Naval veteran. Professionally speaking, 18 years of sales and mortgage operations background. But more excited to announce that we recently launched a firm called Transformation Empowerment Advisors, or better known as TREAD International. And our passion is simply purpose discovery for man, to help cultivate, provide life-altering change that leads to social influence and business and personal growth. So I'm excited to be part of this panel of young, fine men and women. And to all of the fathers, I want to wish a happy Father's Day.
Awesome. Well, thank you, each and every one of you, for, again, agreeing to be a speaker, and you're dynamic in your own right. So I'm very honored and appreciate each and every one of you for being on this panel discussion. So you may be, for attendees, you may be wondering, why Unscripted? Why are we doing this? God really laid it on my heart a couple of weeks ago. About 2 or 3 weeks ago, about this, you know, with everything going on. Of course, we know, unfortunately, you know, with the pandemic, and then on top of that, we have all of the racial injustice, these senseless killings of our Black men. I really felt in my heart that we need to have a space that just talk about things that men want to talk about. I wanted to give them a platform to really be able to talk, as well as appreciate our men, especially our Black men. I really wanted them to know that we see them as Black women. We honor them, we value them. So I want to say that now for all the men on the line, on this Zoom call. We really appreciate you. And I know I can speak to all the Black women on this call. And I'm just looking forward to really what the men have to say. Of course, the women, we're going to chime in, but this really is an opportunity for the men to talk about what's on their heart. So Unscripted is really just giving a theme topic, and just letting God be God, and just letting everything flow. It's not scripted at all. So the topic for tonight is manhood, and of course appreciation for our men. So with that said, let's just dive in. So that's what we're going to do. So, you know, whoever wants to start, but like, what does manhood means to you? Like, what are some things, men, that's on the panel? What are some things that's on your heart to share?
I will start by just saying that for me, having lost my father at an early age in my life, I practically grew up with experimenting through life. And so there was a lack of guidance there for me. And so as I became a man and became a grown-up and adult, I pretty much felt that I was living life by myself. And I found that early on, even in my 30s, that I wasn't the only man who was experiencing things like I would have experienced. However, there were other men that were going through the same thing, but it wasn't until those experiences where I met a man or met other brothers and we got to talking that, wow, you've been going through all of this all your life. And it all resulted that there was a lot of silence. And so for me, manhood is more than just, you know, we grow up learning to be tough, learning maybe not to cry, or we're supposed to be the head of our homes, but it's that direction and being also in touch with our emotions and being able to be transparent. And I didn't learn, except for maybe many, many years later, to be transparent. And so I find that after I created the Fishers of Men organization back in 2013, that most men that I talk to, grown men, even from their 20s on up to even their 60s and 70s, just didn't didn't do much talking, and they carried the weight on their shoulders without opening up in fear of what others would think of them or what women would think of us. And that just seemed to be the thing. It was that silence. And sometimes we have silence in the home because our father may not be in the home, or our father could very well be in the home and still be silent, not having those conversations. So for me, that, my heart was really to get men to speak more and be more transparent in communicating. And I just think if we communicated more with each other and really, it takes building that trust, but being transparent and vulnerable, that would really allow us to not be stressed, and be able to connect, even in our walk spiritually. Even if we don't have that guidance at an early age, we would be able to be more clear in our minds to communicate more and maybe be better in our relationships. So I would just say that the silence factor has become one of the major key areas where it's brought a lot of more pressure and things to come in a man becoming a man.
Yeah.
I can attest.
Go ahead.
No,
Bob.
please go ahead, sir.
I definitely agree with that statement. There's something about men that we pride ourselves on being strong, being invincible, so to speak. So whenever we are vulnerable and express our feelings, is seen as weakness. And that's one thing that I had to overcome. My father, he was in the house, like I said, military man, awesome father. When I came down here for college, my dad taught me how to be a man, but when I got here, I learned how to be a man of God. So a man of God exposes his weakness, and God says that he'll take that weakness and cover it with his strength. He'll strengthen us in our weakness. So that was a process for me. So I definitely agree with that. Just learning the real meaning of manhood and how Jesus Christ lived his life. He wasn't the biggest macho man walking this earth, even though he had all power. He could do whatever he wanted to do. But he wasn't, Bishop said it the best in the small group. He said machoism. There's a lot of machoism going on in society, and said this is what it means to be a man. You have to do this and you have to do that. You don't cry. Yeah. My thing is, if God didn't want men to cry, he wouldn't have gave us tear ducts to cry with. So we have those emotions, we have those feelings, we even have those fears sometimes, and we need to express those things. And I had to learn how to do that and learn a new definition of what manhood really is.
That's good. I recently told a story in a previous conversation, a situation when an individual was incarcerated. And this individual, as he was being prepared to meet in front of the judge, he was approached by an old timer, and in shackles, this individual was asked, "How long have you been like that?" And a lot of times we fail to ask that question. How long as men have we been the way that we are? How long have we been like that? And why have we been like that? And kind of to piggyback off of something that Ms. Graham responded to, who told us that we were the way that we are? And many a times we perceive that we're lesser because we've been told that we're lesser. We perceive that we're supposed to be macho. We're supposed to be strong. And unfortunately, that isn't the case. And one of the things that we've been vocal and advocating for is the concept of men to be, as my partner Alvin stated, transparent, to share the heavy weight of the concept of manhood, that concept of, or that state or that idea of constant carrying the troubles of the family, the bills, the concerns, what direction. As head of the household, we've been given authority to go a certain direction. not realizing that it's okay to stop and go. It's okay to put the pause on the brakes, just to kind of do a gut check, a spirit check, to see if we're going the right way. And so, one of the things that we're advocating for is to ensure that men have a platform, a community to come together, to share, to express and expose themselves, and to give them also a platform for what we call RE moments, to be renewed, to be retransformed, to grow into somebody, into a new brand, rebrand yourself, so to speak. And strongly believe that with everything that's going on in today's society, that if you had a core group of men that had just a commitment to change the life of 2 or 3 under them, right? And if that multiplied and continued to roll downhill from generation to generation, then we could achieve whatever success that we're expecting in society. And I think society right now is lacking that. Not to say that there isn't a group of core men that are out there committed. Simply, we just need more. We need more men to step up to the plate and say, I'm willing to take this on. I'm willing to change more than just the lives in my household. I'm willing to be a mentor, be a fisher of men.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree with all the men that's been speaking. Flacco, I really like the points you made. One of the things that we, I grew up in a single parent home. My father divorced my mother real young. So I had no real perception or no depth or insight about what manhood really is. I knew of my father, but I didn't know of him or what he did or he never taught us any lessons. So, the environment shapes us as men a lot, in the house, in our community, who we hang out with, our friends, relatives. It shapes us, and unfortunately, a lot of traditions are passed down through us, and we pick up these habits. We pick up these perceptions. I see Wakita put a comment, our perception is men don't cry, you gotta be strong. My father had several, was married several times. So, you see these things and these habits become a part of your life, and then you embrace them. Then all of a sudden you gotta say, wow, what does God say about me? Who am I? And I had to realize that God made me in his image. We're heirs of the kingdom. And when you realize that, then it allows you to grow. So how do I get better? How do I relearn? And oftentimes we have to freeze the perceptions or the things that were passed down to us. We have to freeze those habits in place, which means you stop them. But then now you got to retrain. You got to plug back in. What does God say a man is? And manhood is really taking ownership of the territory God has given you. And you got to take, whether that's a family, whether that's your job, whether it's friends, it's circles, that the territory you have, take ownership of it in excellence. You grow it, you provide provision for your wife, your children, where they can actually blossom under your leadership. And we really are farmers where we raise up. At the end of the day, we are farmers and we raise up our community. We raise up the people that we're responsible for. And then as we embrace those new habits, the more you practice it, the more you train with it, the more you do it, it becomes a new nature of who you are as a man. And then it dispels all of those connotations. You don't cry. You got to fight every time. Humility is a big part of the process. Swallowing that pride, being more humble, being more transparent. Nothing wrong with crying, right? Because that's true manhood for me. And, it's just that understanding that we are all flawed. However, God has made us in his image. And with that image right there, that's a powerful feeling to have. And it really moves us in the right direction as far as leading our families.
Awesome. So women, I wanted to, what are your input? Like the thought that came to my mind was how we as women help our men. Like, how do we make sure that everything that the men share, that they are able to have that safe space, be vulnerable, show their emotions. How do we cultivate that? Like, what are your thoughts on anything that was shared?
I love what our guys are saying. Thank you very much, men. I appreciate that. And so I want to just speak some more life into what was just said, this angle. I think what you're saying, Coach LaRonda, you know, how can we help? And I think as women, no matter what age, before we can appreciate manhood, we have got to deal with the lies. And so I think we've got to get rid of the idea of replacing a man. Now, this is unscripted, and there's a whole lot of categories we could go into on that topic, but I am not going to go there. But we live in a time and in a place where this mentality of replacing a man with anything, it needs to be called out. It needs to be dealt with, because it is based on a spirit of lies. There are spirit of lies in the atmosphere, as several of the men have just highlighted, and the last one was with Theo talking about these perceptions. These perceptions, they are based on lies. And what keeps happening is the lie puts on a different hat, turns a different way, changes the outfit, and it's still a lie. And we continue to allow this to be present in our minds first, in our hearts, and then we pass it on. We're passing on these lies. We're continuing a cycle as a woman. Again, different ages. As a woman, we are continuing some cycles of this mindset of replacing a man. God didn't give us men to be replaced. They are who they are. One of the ways, a lie that we believe, is that a woman, you know, you can take the place of the dad. I'm just going to be mom and dad. We even have commercials out here that and companies that will support these lies, and we buy into it, and it just becomes more and more popular. I'm just using that as one example, but that is a key way I think that we have to get more proactive in this, is taking a look at what have we believed personally. What have I been doing to replace a man? You know, and it's like something as simple as, oh, I don't need you to open that door for me. If he wants to open the door, let him open the door. It's just little things, you know. So we just bought into it. Oh, you a strong woman. Wonder Woman is great in the comics, but we get tired. I ain't got no lasso. You know, I'm not trying to be out here trying to whip somebody in with a lasso. No, that stuff is for entertainment. And again, we allow all of that to just to muddy the water. We totally allow it to muddy the water. So replacing the man, we got to get rid of that idea. Just look and say, man, what lies have I believed about my brother, about my father, about uncles? What lies have I believed about the man? And I have been a part of the problem in continuing that lie, laughing at the uncomfortable jokes or whatever it is. It's like, I'm not good with that. I need to not be good with that anymore, and make sure that I'm doing better with saying, that sounds like a lie. I don't see brothers like that. I don't want my brothers to be like that. I want to do what I can to support them. So I'm going to call some things a lie right to its face.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, that's a good point that you brought up about the lies, and even as women, where we try to replace men. And I don't believe that that's from an intentional place, but I think the lies that we, or how we show up as women in terms of the idea of replacing the men, are the lies that we believe about ourselves first. And so if as a daughter growing up in a home with a single mother where there were no fathers around or no father figures, I saw my mom do it all herself. And she did say, you know, to me several times, I'm your mama and your daddy. And so that place of when Christmas time came, you know, when birthdays came, and, you know, she didn't have the money, you know, to purchase different things and stuff like that. So that was the hey, I got to take care of the household. I'm being mama and I'm being daddy. You know, when you need the car fixed, when you need things, you know, taken care of, that she was the only one that was there to do it. And so in my mind growing up, I definitely adapted that mindset that I had to do everything by myself. Now, I wasn't rude and disrespectful in terms of telling somebody they can't open the door for me, but from me, it came more so from a perspective of not asking for help, because again, I didn't see that growing up where people came and helped. So in my mind, I had to do it myself. And, you know, that's a natural bent, you know, for me to be a person who just does things, but then to have that reinforced by not having a support system that my mom was able to go to. So it kind of, you know, in my mind, the lie for me was that I had to do it myself because that's what I saw modeled. And so that place of going to asking a friend or a brother or my husband, you know, for help, well, I can do it myself, you know, it's not really a big deal, you know, because that's what I'm used to. So I think in that place of women and helping us, you know, helping women to understand that we're not required to do it by ourselves. And even for men, I think it's on both ends. Men are not required to do it themselves either, that place of partnership. So, and with that lie for men that they have to do it by themselves, and with the lie for women that we have to do it by ourselves, then you create division. There's separateness. There's you over here and I'm over here. There is no joining together, which is what God has created it to be, is for us to come together in partnership, whether it be through a marriage or through a brother and sister relationship, you know, a friend to friend relationship. That lie that we have to do it ourselves, and that keeps us divided from one another. And so for me, the question, LaRonda, where you asked about how we support and help our men, you know, I've had to remind Theo lots of times that I'm here to help him. You know, what do you need me to do? You know, you know, and again, we have to pay attention to, you know, the body language, to, you know, the sometimes they won't speak it out loud, but you can detect a little panic, a little frenzy going on. You know, the foot starts shaking, the hand goes up here, you know, just those types of things. And we can be proactive and say, hey, you know, what you thinking about, you know, and, you know, they typically won't say, oh, well, I need help with this and this and this. They'll be like, well, you know, this is due, and then I got to fix this over here, and, you know, then this needs to be done, and then that. So they'll give you a list. And then so I'll say, okay, well, what do you want me to help with? What would you like me to take on? So those different things where we're being mindful and we're paying attention to their lists, or they're, you know, just random making statements rather than asking, you know, directly for help. And also to helping them to come up to another level, you know, who a man marries is very important. And I think a lot of times God puts things in a woman and she shows up in such a way that requires, you know, the man to come up some, and we're responsible for helping them to come up a little bit in terms of how they view themselves, in terms of how they show up in the world. And so that place of where we can ask God for wisdom, we can ask God to show us who our husbands are so that we can be able to speak to that person. We can call out, you know, those traits, those attributes and stuff like that, that God has placed on the inside of them, and begin to help them, you know, help build them up in that area, and help them be accountable as well, not letting them stay below or mediocre to who and what God has called them to be. And so there's a standard that, you know, is in women that requires our husbands, you know, to come up, you know, a little bit more and not get comfortable with being, as Benjamin said, Daniel, what was the
6'3".
6'3", in the spirit of excellence. In the spirit of excellence, you know.
In the spirit of excellence.
that we as women, you know, are able to do and have been equipped to do. You know, being a wife is a calling. Being a sister is a calling, whether it's a biological sister or a friendship. You know, if you're a single woman, you still have men around you that you can ask God to show you who they are. and you begin to speak into their lives. You begin to encourage them. You begin to call them up, you know, in areas where you see that they're not their best, and you speak to those things and you know, cause them to come up to a different standard and keep them there.
Very good. So great discussion, and I just want to add in, you know, my own experience. So I think Adam mentioned, you know, I had my father was in the house with my mom, but I have a domineering mom. So even though my dad was in the house, he was more the provider. He was not like, he was very silent. He was there, but wasn't present for me. More for I have two brothers. I'm the oldest girl and the only girl. So I saw a lot of him giving them advice when he was home and alert, because he worked crazy shifts at a paper mill. So, you know, when he was available, I would see him do those conversations. I always joke and say, I never got the birds and bees talk. Like I heard him talking to my brothers, but I never got that conversation. We, you know, even to this day, I love my dad, like very low key, easygoing guy. Know that I love him and he loves me, but we never had that kind of relationship where it's like a daddy-daughter, daddy's girl type of relationship. So the one that I always went to when I had any issues with my mom, like she was the one that was the more dominating one, and the disciplinary person, the one that, you know, knew what was going on at school, or, you know, if I was trying to go for a job or a career, she was always the go-to. So, you know, growing up, I didn't see that, but I realized after getting divorced, you know, I was married, realizing that I was starting to emulate a lot of that because I didn't see positive role models of being a man, you know, a men. Even my uncles, you know, they had great qualities, don't get me wrong, but they also were doing some dirt. They were doing So I was always at my grandmother's house. So a lot of, again, I the strong women in my life. So, you know, being at my grandmother's house all the time on weekends, my uncles would come over, but yeah, they were doing some stuff on the phone with other women. They may be married, but on the phone, you know, come to my grandma's house to be on the phone with other women, or just talking all kind of way. And I guess they think that I'm young. I ain't, you know, not listening, but you know, a lot of stuff. So I definitely, you know, it wasn't until I became in Christ that I realized how much I didn't know about men, especially after my divorce. Like once I got, you know, I realized, wow, I don't really know what a real man is. Like I wasn't, you know, like I said, my dad was an awesome man, but I didn't see chivalry like that. Because my mama, I don't think she would have appreciated on that level, because she was so independent. So it took me a while. Like I thank God for my brother Alvin, because he really helped me see that real men are chivalrous. And like a lot of times he would have, I'm like, okay, that's awesome. So in the 5+ years that I've known him, like he's really helped groom me, helped me in that area. And I know and I know you don't mind me sharing this, but I've also, like kind of like what TJ has talked about, when you have other men in your lives, you can also pull them up, because we've had those tough conversations where I'm like, you need to be vulnerable. You need to be open. Who can you talk to? Like you're talking to me as a woman, but you need to be able to talk to some guys. And that really, I've seen in the years, like I've seen him open up in ways beyond, you know, talking to me or another woman as a sister, but really being able to let his guard down within a safe space. I always say, you know, men and women, we need those safe spaces, but definitely men need space to be able to be vulnerable and open. So yes, definitely. So what other thoughts around manhood, guys?
I just want to add that both of my sisters have said their part, but I want to put this phrase in the atmosphere. You can be a strong Black woman and appreciate men.
Yes.
And so, because in my zealousness of being excited about just sharing that piece, I forgot to say, I grew up in a home where I didn't see really any men, and it'd be on special occasions, maybe they come around, or just as I got older, you know, it just was not a lot of men around the family. I have brothers and different characters, but didn't really see that. I saw women do it all. And so I just wanted to make sure the phrase is put out there. You can be that strong Black woman and appreciate men, honor them, and encourage them, as my sisters and brothers have been talking about. So
Thank you for that.
You know, one of the go ahead, Alvin. So one of the things that I want to speak to is something that LaRonda really touched upon it, and I kind of want to, in the spirit of following suit with Sandra, is calling out lies. I'm going to call out the lie that we're great communicators, because we're not. I think it's safe to assume that we as men could be better communicators. If there is a thought process that men don't want the help, I'm going to call that lie out as well. Because in our subconscious, in late at night, at midnight, when everybody's asleep and we're sitting in our offices thinking about what our day was like or what's planned for the next day, we think about the things that we need assistance with. We think about the things that we need help with. And furthermore, I think society has, many years ago, I would say about 40, 50 years ago, really began to change the traditional sense of family, of men and women, and not speaking to anything in particular, simply that the traditional sense of family values have changed. And sometimes it works for certain families. Sometimes it's okay to have dad at home and mom working. I'm a big advocate of that if that works for you. However, what happens is that, in my opinion, there's a vicious cycle of the fact that men aren't communicating well. There's a perception that we don't need any assistance, so we go into our own cubby holes and become that quiet father, that quiet grandfather. And it becomes a vicious cycle over and over and over. And then women are then led to become mom and dad. Women are led to carry the weight and the brunt of it. Men are now advised that they're no longer needed. And can I just make this statement that when a woman says that a man isn't needed, what they're really saying is that they don't need love. And I'll tell you why, because man was created in the image of God, and God is love. So what you're saying is when you don't need man, I don't need love. And we all know that women and men need love, right? Simple fact. So what I want to highlight is the fact that because less men are involved in the daily routine of family life, men have in some ways allowed for the social structure of family to change. It's a constant vicious cycle. It's a vicious cycle, and we need to begin the process to break those chains, to penetrate that idea that we're no longer needed. Because if there's a man that's listening to this recording now, I'm going to speak life into you right now. I'm going to tell you, you are needed. You're needed more than what you really believe. You are wanted more than what you really. You're bigger than what you even think you are. That's how important you are. It begins with us as men. It begins with us to set a new standard, right? And take back the traditional sense of family life, the traditional sense of headship, of being the head of the household. So I kind of wanted to speak to that, because there's a reason why those men in your lives, ladies, are the way that they are. And unfortunately, sometimes we don't recognize that. We don't realize that, or we don't even say it. Even when we realize it, we're not good in communicating to the fact that we need assistance. We need help.
Blacko, you really mentioned some great points, and that's spot on. And, I'd like to, we talk about, there are women that, I'm that mommy, daddy. There's also men that think they can do it all also for the family. It goes back to me for role clarification. We all need to understand our roles in marriage, in relationship. Without role clarification, it'll always be dysfunction. It'll always be confusion. Understanding we can't play both roles, designed us specifically, the wife as a helpmate, right? And also the voice of wisdom for me. And which gets back to, you know, she had the little example where the woman is here and the man is here when we come into relationship. She's trying to get us up here, right? So I get that because I was way down here when I met her, but she made me accountable to make sure I came up, but I had to swallow my pride because in that process of growing into manhood, because we haven't been modeled this behavior at home, most of us come from broken homes. She gave me live feedback. That feedback is not hard, is very difficult to receive when you haven't had someone challenge what you need to do, how you need to be, your actual role to actually plug into the relationship. So being able to swallow the pride as a man, knowing that I've been flawed with these lies, these perceptions, I have to be open to take those words that are cutting me, right? But they're cutting me in a positive way to actually create a more significant, profound outcome. So that took time. It wasn't easy. So I'm speaking to men also that if you're in a place where you've been through so many situations in life and you become hardened and you got 20 layers of hurt, 20 layers of pain, we have to peel that stuff back like an onion and get back to our true self, who God created us to be, where we are, you know, submissive, where we can be in that place where we're vulnerable, where we can receive information, because that's the truth. At the root is where we grow. We don't grow at the leaf or at the limb. We grow at the root level, and getting back to those particular pieces is so critical for growth. And that's when I saw actual acceleration in our marriage as far as our unity goes, when I was able to receive that feedback, because I had a lot of pride and she had to chisel it away. So it was some definite moments in our relationship where, you know, they say iron sharpens iron, but I had to say, you know what? Every time she tells me something, it's normally going to be 99.9% right. And I was probably going to be wrong, but just understand it's a process and we have to trust that process as men. And oftentimes we haven't been taught how to receive from other people.
TJ, we got this recorded. Your reference.
You know,
Right.
Flacco, you know, you talked about communication. And I wrote down honest communication, and I wrote down the Babylonians, right? And that place where you said a woman says, I don't need you. And remember, God's purpose, or God created a people that had one language. We all spoke language, right? But then something happened and people decided they didn't need God anymore, that they were just going to go on this mission and continue to build and build and build and do their own thing and not give God credit for it. And then God had to go ahead and slide in there and let me cut this short. Let me confuse y'all language. Let me scatter y'all. Let me, you know, all this kind of stuff, right? And those for the people that are outside of God, but the body of Christ is supposed to be on the same language. And so what happens in communication is you have the lie, okay, that men don't talk, men are not communicators, men don't communicate well, all those different things, that don't listen, all those different lies. But then even that space of where we are so afraid to be vulnerable that we don't tell the honest truth. So when a woman says, I don't need you, she's not really saying, I don't need your love or I don't need you around. What she's really saying is, I've been used to doing this by myself and you're not helping me. So guess what? You can go on because, you know, I don't need you, you know, in that to-do list, that checkbox type of, you know, way. But if she had also been taught to properly label her emotions, identify her emotions and call them what they are, then she would be able to communicate better in terms of, yes, I need you to love me. I need to love you, okay? And I also need you to get the children a couple nights a week while I go take a bath by myself uninterrupted, you know? So when it comes to even the expression of emotions, excitement, laughter is acceptable. Anger and rage is acceptable. But saying I'm disappointed, saying that I'm sad, saying that I expected more, you know, those types of honest feelings and emotions are not permitted, if you will, to be expressed, because again, that is a sign of weakness, like on both parts. Especially if you just have so much, so many layers, as Theo said, of hurt and pain and trauma that hasn't been dealt with, then we're all in self-preservation mode. We're all in self-protection mode. So if I show you my weakness, if I show you, you know, that I really need you to love me, and so when you're on a phone call for 5 hours, when I'm over here like, hey, look at me, you know, instead of just saying, you know, I would really love to spend, you know, just an hour with you, you know, to share my day or something like that. It comes off as I don't need you, anger, rage, frustration, you know, those types of things. So getting back to the space where we properly identify and define how we're supposed to show up and how we're supposed to communicate. Because our hearts are saying one thing, but then that survival mode and that self-preservation mode is saying something totally different, and we're not communicating with each other the way we should.
Very good.
And to your point, CJ, when you put it out, I was thinking about how we communicate. So it is also that tone, because, you know, like you were saying, you can tell us in a way, you know, hey, I'm over here. But if it comes off as, well, why are you watching the game? And I'm over here trying to spend time with you. And it's the way you approach it. And then at the same time, it's we as men, it's how we communicate to you. And being, you know, being open to your emotions. And sometimes we aren't even in touch with our own emotions. Then it is difficult for us to get into your emotions. Well, why is she always, you know, complaining about I don't spend my time at home? I'm trying to go out here and make this money, but she wants me to spend an hour. But it's how I love the fact that you said we gotta come together, partnership. I grew up in a household with both my parents, and when my mom passed, I was very, very young. And looking back now, my father grieved himself to death because he passed away 6 years later, and he was silent. I didn't know it at the time. I was young, but I believe he just really missed my mom. They were married over 25 years, so I always saw him as a man for everything. I didn't want for anything. Our family didn't want for anything. He provided for the household. I never even seen them argue. So what did I do when I got married? I wasn't going to argue. I was always, well, whatever you like, sweetheart.
Whatever you like.
Because that's what I saw my father do. However, I also picked up that silence characteristic with not really talking and being open. Even though at the time my wife and I communicated, I needed that strong woman to hold me accountable and also be a partner. And unfortunately, I grew up where my mom didn't have to work, so my father took care of everything. So I grew up thinking, well, that's what I have to do. And I didn't ask for help. I didn't go to another man. And my father-in-law at the time and I were very close, but I didn't want to go to him as the only man because it's your daughter that I'm married to. So how can I go to you and tell you I'm trying to be a better man for your daughter? And so I didn't feel comfortable. But that's the thing I feel too, a lot of men need to come to realize, to associate with other men. Talking to any man that's listening to this call, it's time to step up, open up. There are other brothers who may be going through what you have already been through or what you're going through right now. And it's time to swallow that pride, like you said, Theo. And I commend you. That is true manhood, by admitting you need to swallow that pride. And it just makes you a better man. But also swallow that pride, talk to another brother, communicate, because if you don't, you're going to hold it in. And when you build up all of that anger and stress and all of that, it can end up in violence, it can end up in death. So it's not worth it. So we have to make sure that we are really opening up and just being transparent, but it starts with how we also communicate.
That's very good. We've got just a couple more minutes before we do our Q&A. So I definitely want to invite attendees or participants to, you know, chime into what we've been talking about. Maybe they have some questions and we'll kind of go through the comments, what maybe has been talked about in the chat box. So just final thoughts as we wrap up the panel discussion.
Okay, so I want to just say again, all of you guys just are awesome. And it really keeps coming back in my spirit that how many of us appreciate a lie? So I would hope no one does, right? When you talk about appreciation of manhood, it's truth that deserves appreciation. And what we are doing right now is just giving that release and saying, I will not accept that lie anymore. Even what Brother Alvin just said with you know, when as a young married man, he felt like, oh, I can't go to my father-in-law and say this because, again, that's a spirit of lie in the atmosphere. And it made you not go and share, not go and be vulnerable, which, you know, again, only God knows if the man could have spoken to you and spoke some life into you. But again, we do that. And so I just want to just keep that before us and holy unto the Lord, that we are going to appreciate our brothers more when we appreciate truth in ourselves and encourage them, as CJ is saying, bringing them up to truth. So just something about it is just all over me personally. And again, it could be just me making sure I check my own lies and get that stuff out of my life. But I appreciate the talk. I appreciate the opportunity to appreciate our brothers in truth.
Awesome. Any other final, really quick comments, thoughts? Our men?
Yes, I would also like to say, you know, speaking to men that's listening, what, you know, the lies, you know, Sandra is really speaking to that and it's resonated with me. We dispel manhood is not defined by how many women you have. It's not defined by your bank account, how much money you have. It's not defined by how much power you have. It's not defined by how much influence you have in the community. That's not definition of manhood at all. So all of those are lies and misperceptions. True manhood is really defined by, one, your alignment with God. Am I surrendered? Am I submitted to him? Because if he's leading me, right, spiritually, then therefore I can lead others. Because men, we were born to lead. We were born to build up. We were born to guide. We were born to teach, to instruct, to be able to tell our children, our young ladies and our young men, what a daughter's supposed to be, what a son's supposed to be, their particular roles. They're supposed to teach and guide that family. So true manhood is really not defined by what society has said. And we picked up on these lies and misperceptions for so many years, generation to generation. So this is now go season to cut that vein off, cut that artery off, where now I'm not being led by the world, but I'm being led by God. And then when you're open to him spiritually, now you can be open to your wife, or if you're a single man looking for a wife, you already know how to go into that marriage leading the right way from a position of authority, but not from a position where the world is leading. And that's true manhood.
Amen.
How do you even follow that?
I know. I'm like, boom.
I know it. We can drop the mic and take.
That's a mic drop, and let's keep it moving, huh?
Amen.
But what I would like to say is, you know, we are currently at war. There's a war that we're facing right now. There's a racial war. There's a social war. There's a spiritual war going on currently in our society, in our communities. I'm reminded of Psalms 127:4. It says that children are like arrows in the hands of warriors. And so what happens in war is that you need warriors and you need arrows. And so if you don't have warriors in place, those arrows can't go anywhere. But if you don't have warriors to cultivate the arrows and make sure that those arrows fly straight, you'll never win a war. So I'm encouraging our brothers, I'm encouraging men. And when we reference brothers, we're speaking of brothers from a spiritual standpoint, black, white, red, yellow. I don't care what color you are, because in the eyes of God, we're one blood. And so what I would do is challenge us as men to come together in unity and begin the process of changing the landscape of society. Begin the process of changing the landscape of what you see in your communities. Stand up. Make sure that when you do stand up, that you're standing up for the right thing, the righteous thing, right? But make sure you grab 2 or 3 behind you, 2 or 3 younger individuals, non-tenured individuals that lack maturity, and mold them into the next generation of leaders. So I want to encourage each and every man. Again, we love you, men. We're looking forward to working with you. We need you.
Very good.
I'll echo that. Just as a single man, I am divorced, but one thing I did learn in my marriage was that I put my business and I put my wife before God. Mm-hmm. And I don't regret what have happened in my life for the relationship that I have with him now. Mm-hmm. And I can say that, putting him first is what was needed, because being divorced, I felt that I had failed at a marriage. I felt I had failed at a business. And so I felt like other men may feel like you failed. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, God created us in his image. Mm-hmm. And for the single brothers out there who are thinking about getting married or preparing to get married, or if that's even in your path, I realize now I had to be married to God first. Mm-hmm. So I expect there will be another Mrs. King. Mm-hmm. However, I'm now being married to God first. Then she'll come along. So I just encourage you, brothers, to really establish that relationship. And if you don't know whatever your spiritual walk is, get connected with other like-minded men, kingdom men. We are kingdom men. We are fishers of men. And so it's time for other brothers to reach out and be fishers of men. That's what Christ told us to do, was to follow him and to take up our cross and follow him, and also be fishers of men. And that is what our role is to do. So I want to just leave you with that.
Awesome. So let's take some questions or comments. So if you don't mind helping me, if you have a comment or a question, this is your time now to share. So we're going to open the chat box here. Let's see. I have from Wakita. I'm just going to read a comment that she had from earlier. It is so important that we understand the origin of our perceptions. Yes, very much so, Wakita. But definitely, like I said, the participants, if you have a question for our panel, please go to the chat box and let's talk. And you can also unmute. I'm sorry, you can also unmute. So if you want to put in the chat box, you're welcome to, or if you want to get off mute, I think there's also options to raise your hand, so let's kind of look and see if we got anybody raising their hand. You go to more.
We'd love to hear your feedback.
Okay.
Hey, Dumbo, you can come off mute and speak.
Who is it?
Dumbo. Hello, everybody.
Oh.
I want to say thank you for allowing me to join this Q&A, and this whole Zoom is a very fascinating thing, because as for me, where I stand at, I just recently had a baby girl who came to the world. So as a man, I have to become a man. I have to become a man, sure, what type of ideal man that she should love, when she gets to that age. But one thing that I have trouble is really understanding how to be a man, because I have, all through my life, the mother was mostly the dominant one in the house. And once I got adopted, I had a father, but he was also quiet. He wasn't really, mold me to to the ideal man that I wanted to be. But, I don't want to put that blame on him. So I went outside and searched, to see, and then TV showed the image of a man, all his cards. And so I had the idea that was kind of what I wanted. And so it kind of led me to also have that empty space, because empty space inside for me to kind of figure out which route to take, So now my daughter's here. It's like I don't even have that emotional connection with her. So it's troubling. So that's where I kind of stand as a man. I need help to really a path for me to take.
Who wants to talk to that? Men?
Well, you're making the first step, which is admitting that you need help. And that's what this platform is all about. And you got a ton of heavy hitters on here, 2 awesome men of God right there, Theo and Flacco. They're married with kids, and ton of wisdom right there that can come from them. So either one of you guys, if you want to impart into them.
By all means.
Yeah, you know, on the heels of my father is very ill, and the past couple of days I've been reflecting a lot on some of the gems that he placed in my heart. And I remember when I had my first child, he gave me a piece of advice, and he told me that there's not a real good book to show you how to become a father. There's not a book out there that he had found at that point in time. So what his advice was to take every relationship that he's had with every man in his life, good and bad, and to begin to dissect those relationships, to begin to throw away the bad information and keep the good, and begin to cultivate what you wanted your relationship with your child to be. And so that's what I would advise you, encourage you to understand each relationship that you've had, whether it be an adopted father, a real father, a uncle, a best friend, a pastor, a mentor. Determine what it is that you want to teach that child, and begin building from there. I have to say the same thing that Dee stated earlier. I think that the first point, and we kind of spoke about it throughout the past hour, but the first point is admitting that you need help. And Proverbs tells us that a wise man loves correction. And so what this young man has demonstrated right now is that the fact that he loves correction. Right. So therefore, in the spirit of him loving correction, he shall become wiser. And so I would tell you that we can, offline get together, either myself, Theo, you have Alvin and Dee, and really begin the process of figuring out who you are. What is your purpose? What is your purpose, not only in life of your child, but outside of that specific realm that you have authority over, that you've been called to be overseer of? Determining that purpose, discovering that purpose, and then beginning to put a plan in place to live out that purpose, right? So I applaud you, brother. I think that, first of all, I congratulate you. Happy Father's Day, because this is probably your first Father's Day, and I'm going to tell you right now, I don't only love my children, I'm in love with my children. Even when they give me headaches, I'm in love with them. And so I applaud you, and I thank you for being one of the few that decided to say, I'm going to be present. Regardless if everybody around me wasn't present, regardless if I'm adopted, I won't allow for this child to be adopted. Not to say there's nothing wrong with adoption. We thank and bless those that are foster parents and parents that adopt. However, you've made a commitment and a choice to be present in that child's life. And I guarantee you that when that child grows older, she, and in the future he's maybe, will reflect back and say, my father was there. And I think there's something valuable and important in regards to that.
We're proud of you.
Yes. Thank you for your question, and thank you, Flacco, and Dimitri, for pouring into this young man. Any other questions? We got time for maybe one or two more, so don't be shy if you want to come off mute, or we can check our chat box. And I don't know if anybody put anything in the chat box, but by all means. Okay. So I'm sorry, was somebody speaking?
Yeah, I just wanted to know, I'd like to speak to Mr. Dumba as well. Mr. Dumba, I just wanted to say, as a woman who works with families, I just want to speak to you just from that perspective of, you're a new parent, as was said, congratulations. And what I end up seeing is, years later, beyond that new parent stage, I end up getting to have to deal, unfortunately, with a lot of broken pieces. And so I want to just give you a heads up on a way to help with to keep some things from being broken. And in the culture we live in, it's been said, you know, when it comes to parenting children, I've heard exasperated parents say, well, there's no manual for my child. And God spoke into me and put this message out there for me to tell parents, there is a manual, and it's the child. The child is the manual. What's your daughter's name?
Nala.
So Nala is entered the world. She is your manual. God has put in her everything that you're going to need. But if you don't pay attention, that's when things get broken. Because you're too busy doing this, too busy looking at that. Got your ears closed for whatever reason. Use your eyes, use your ears, use your every sense that you have to get to know the manual of Nala. She will show you things that are gonna blow your mind, but let her be your manual, and appreciate God for putting a manual right in that human. And again, like I said, that would help us in this universe to not have so many broken pieces if we just look at the manual that's laid before us, and that's that beautiful human life. That's from a coach. That was free, brother.
That's good. That's good.
So took the advice, sir. I'm a single mom. I have a 6-year-old, and Sandra, you just hit the nail on the head. My God, because my daughter teaches me every day, every second of the day, how to love her, what she needs. So your children will let you know. They are in themselves. I never thought about it that way, but thank you, Sandra. That was wow, powerful. Any other thoughts?
Yes, Dumba, I just want to share with you a couple scriptures. First, Psalm 68, 5-6. He is a father to the fatherless. You know, I grew up without a father, and I just, your background, you got to understand, even though our biological father here on earth may have abandoned us, he will never abandon us, all right? And as long as you got him guiding you, and you're moving with love and compassion for your daughter, want to be a good father, acknowledging that, hey, I don't have it. I don't have how to do this. However, he will guide you. The only way he can guide you, got to get in that word. You got to read. You have to have some go-to scriptures when your mind starts to wander and the devil starts to play on your mind and start to say, man, I'm not in my daughter's life. I'm not connected. I'm not where I need to be. I'm failing her. You're not failing her at all. You just got to understand he will guide you. And then I had another scripture I wrote down here, 1 Peter 5:7. Cast all your cares upon him. Every care, every concern, every worry that you may have, you got to have those. And that's something that helped me. I grew up, like I said, in a fatherless home, and I had to have some armor. I had to armor myself with some word that could really get me moving in the right direction when I was feeling weak, when I was feeling discouraged, when I feel like I was not living up to the standard that my daughter, my children needed. And when you do that day after day and get closer to him, then as Sandra said, all the answers he's gonna reveal it to you. You just have to now be obedient to Holy Spirit, right? And be faithful and trust in the word, trust in him, and understand it's not our season. It's not my time. It's not our time. So you may want everything to be right with your daughter the next day. God has the perfect timing. You just have to be obedient to that. And your daughter will love you forever. So the good thing is your heart is in the right place, but you got to stay there and you got to search. You got to stay close to him, and he'll make a way when we don't see a way. He's a way maker.
He is. Very good. Very good.
I want to throw.
I believe, Dumba, you said that you didn't have a connection with your daughter, right?
Yeah, I said I don't have a connection, that emotional bond. So it's like, because I think that once I'm still trying to discover who I am, so it's like showing who I am to her. It's not clear to me yet, so that's why that emotion is kind of not there at all.
Right. And so, I definitely wanted to, make a comment, regarding that emotional connection and even examining, that space. You said regarding yourself, it's hard to have an emotional connection with other people when we're disconnected from our own emotions. So if I'm improperly identifying or connecting or even expressing or describing my own emotions, then it's hard for me to, you know, do the same thing for somebody else. Also, I would advise too, maybe, you know, is it a physical distance, you know, that's causing problems or even issues, you know, with her mother that may be causing, you know, some type of barrier within that emotional connection with her. And so in that space, being able to examine why you are void of that, and then determining how you can get to a place of establishing an emotional connection, even when y'all are physically, you know, apart, if that's the case. But it's important. And you know, I didn't speak about my relationship, you know, with my father, but we didn't have a good relationship. But he was very emotionally disconnected from me. I'm his oldest daughter, and he has 2 children under me. Him and my mom never married, but he married his son and daughter's mother. So when I would go around them to his house or whatever, you know, he's never been a part of my life, but he would sit with me when I would visit him, and he would tell me all the things that he was doing for the son and daughter, right? My brother and sister. And so that place of him being so disconnected from me emotionally, whether it be because of his relationship with my mother or, you know, himself, he wasn't able to connect the dots that, you know, you're sitting in front of a child that you have not been, you know, active in her life, and you're talking to her about what you're doing with the other 2 children and not being able to ascertain how that could affect me, how that can make me feel rejected, how that can make me feel like I'm inadequate and not good enough, you know, those types of things. So it's very important, again, like Dee said, you were acknowledging that you need help. Blacko said, you being in a place of wanting wisdom, wanting correction, which is wise, and in that place of examining yourself to see what the barrier is and how you can remove that barrier so that you can emotionally connect with your daughter. And if you plan on having future children, it won't be a barrier by the time you have your future children.
I will as well, like, to wrap this up, counseling. I know that can be taboo in the Black community especially, but we need to make sure if you know, going to the word, having, of course, mentors. I love what the men are sharing, like, you can definitely talk to them afterwards. But if there's something deeper that you need, by all means, seek that Christian counselor or a therapist, or just get that trauma, like somebody mentioned, I can't remember, undealt with trauma, you know, like we all have on some level. Then, you know, reach out to that, you know, find someone that you can talk to, because I had to do it myself, and it was truly a blessing for me. There's some of the things I've dealt with in my childhood that I haven't even went into. So, you know, definitely, if you need professional help on that level, get it. Get the help that you need beyond, you know, all of those different the wisdom of your. So with that said, I want to be mindful of time. We need to wrap up and recap. So, I mean, my gosh, so many amazing, my notebook is full of just different things that were said. I'm kind of briefly share some. I love with, let's see, Demetric talked about exposing weaknesses, being real, learning how to be a godly man. Flacco talked about safe space, you know, paying it forward. Just so many great things that were shared. Let's see, Sandra talked about getting rid of the lies and the myths, dispelling those myths. CJ talked about how do we build up our men, make them accountable, be the encourager. Again, helping them with that list of all those different things, how to be a real helpmate to, if you're married, or, you know, if you have brothers or single men in your life, how can you also build them up? As well as myself, this, you know, sharing that, you know, again, get professional help if you need it. Don't be afraid of that. Be vulnerable. Be willing to share your story. Share what happened to you. Share those things to the right people. We can't share it to anybody in this, you know, but share it in that safe space or with that professional individual that's there to help you. So with that said, what we do is have the women on the line just very, very quickly, because again, I want to be, thinking about the time. This wraps up at 8, and I want to make sure that we value everybody's time. But really quick, just want every woman, if you want to come off mute, women that's also on the line, let's just say a couple of words. There's something that's going to inspire and motivate the men on the line, because again, we want to make sure that that point is well taken and known, that we very much, you are needed. Each and every man on this call, those that will be listening to this recording at a later date, you are needed, you are valued, you are worthy. So with that said, so that's my piece. I'm gonna pass the baton, each woman that want to share, speakers, as well as those that other women that may be on the line, if you want to come off mute and say something really quick.
Thank you, men, for being present right here, right now. I'm proud of who you are, where you've been, because that's your story, and what God is going to continue to do to develop you and encourage you to take the role that He's called you into. So thank you.
I would like to say, take the weights off, take Saul's armor off, wear your own armor. You will win every battle. You will win every war wearing your armor, with God at the center of your life, and with your sisters, your fellow sisters and other brothers rallying around you, helping you, assisting you. That's what we're here for. God put us here for relationship, and so you're not here to do it by yourselves. And just allow us to help you, okay? Allow us to be available in whatever capacity that you need us to help you become great, to help you to self-actualize and be all that God has created you to be and to do excellently.
Any other women, you can take yourself off mute. If you want to put in the chat box, by all means, you can put it there as well. So just want to make sure if anybody else want, as far as the women, if you want to pour into these men on this call, this is your time to do so.
I want to piggyback off of what Miss LaRonda said about, like, we need y'all. Cause but for me personally, like, Theo here has been like the biggest inspiration in my life. He has helped me through so many different things, and I feel like, even though like he's not like my physical dad, we still need like to have these spiritual fathers out here. Like, we need people to look up to help us through the tough times. So we really do need y'all in our lives.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Anyone else? I just want to make sure. I know we got some women on the line. I just want to give you a moment. If you have something to say, put in the chat box or come off mute. Right. With that said, I definitely want to, again, thank the speakers. If you will, speakers, because we may have some people that want to reach out to you, put your Instagram, Facebook handles out on the chat box. So if you would do that, that would be great. Put how they can reach you, how you want them to reach out to you. As well as I was reminded of Fishers of Men. So we have Alvin King and Demetric. They're both co-laborers, co-lead the Fishers of Men prayer call weekdays, Monday through Friday at 6 a.m. Again, we will share that information out in the chat box, the dial-in number. So for those men on the line that you want to join them and be a part of that, prayer call whenever you can, or every single day, like I said, Monday through Friday. So definitely want to reiterate that, as well as Female Night. So we have Ms. Sandra Johnson, as you mentioned early on. She's the founder and president of Female Nights, and I am one of the members as well. So if you want more information about Female Nights, by all means, reach out to Sandra. So again, speakers, if you'll put your information out there in the chat box. So thank you again. This was an amazing first event. I'm excited. This is part one. We will have other parts to go, other topics, other things as we talk real candid conversations. So thank you and good night.
We appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you,
God bless you.
speakers. God bless you all.
The letter M. This is your girl, Wendy Wu, your Jacksonville fashion stylist. I'm here to encourage all our African American kings. I just want you guys to know that no weapon formed against you shall prosper, and we queens are here for you. We love you and support you. Thank you.
Hello, men of God. CJ here. My word of inspiration, motivation, and encouragement is actualize. Be everything that God has created you to be. Do everything that He's created you to do. You have a lot of potential on the inside of you that needs to come out, that needs to be seen, that needs to be experienced to transform our world.
Necessary, being essential, indispensable, and requisite. Hello to my essential brother. You are indispensable. The black man is requisite, absolutely necessary. This world requires you. I appreciate you. You are necessary to this world. You matter.
You are heroic. We see you overcome adversity and still rise. We see you being brave in the face of danger, protecting your family and those you love. We see you setting a good example for young men to follow. We admire you, we respect you, and we love you.
You are outstanding and an overcomer. You have overcome many obstacles with outstanding courage. You are outgoing, outspoken, observant, original, and outright the best.
Happy Father's Day, Kings. I come to you representing the letter O. I just want to let you know that you are outstanding. You stand out. You don't go with the flow. Rather, you are a good man whose steps are ordered by God. You rise above. So from this queen to all of you kings, thank you and happy Father's Day. Bye-bye.
D is for determination, destiny, and dreams. Our black men, our kings, our kingdom men, we want you to be determined, to be full of destiny of what God has given you, and to dream big.